infrastructure committee because roads are infrastructure. But you guys can decide what you want to call it. But if we could all stand up, it's normal at each of these meetings to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if I could ask each to stand up and face the flag, move your hats.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So what I wanted to do, we actually have one member that unfortunately is my fault, didn't get approved to be on this committee in the last meeting. When we are missing one member. Scott's not here. I'm not sure where Scott Smiley is, but he is. Chris is a new member to the committee. Actually, we have two because Dan and Lenny both still have to be approved. They will be on Monday. So Monday night, they're on the agenda to be approved. Because of that, what we originally planned was a formation committee where you would, a formation meeting where you would vote for a chairman and a secretary. Because every committee has to have a chairman and a secretary. I think in order to make it official, we could do it, but they can't be selected right now and they can't vote officially. So I'm thinking we do, well, let's just do this as an introductory where we kind of talk about goals and what we're hoping the committee to achieve. And then in your next meeting, y'all can elect a chairman and a secretary for the committee. How's that sound?
Okay.
So just so you know, the basic role of any of the committees at the village is to work with the liaison to the council, which is Councilman Chuck Howell, and the liaison to the area in which you're dealing with. This committee, of course, is infrastructure, so that's under the guise of Public Works. And Kurt Epler is the Director of Public Works. So your committee's task is to work through these two individuals to establish and accomplish goals within the village. One of the things that I foresee this committee, now, to be honest, I can't tell you what to do. You've been appointed by the mayor and approved by council to work on roads and infrastructure. And you guys can decide how you want to handle that. But what I'm going to recommend that you do is that you focus on policy and you focus on goals for a village infrastructure. And I'm talking 3 to 5 year goals. I will tell you that we have had challenges where people get on committees and they come with one agenda. And that agenda typically is something personal to them. And that's all they care about. I hope that's not the case here. We have much bigger needs in this community than worrying about whether somebody's street got plowed properly or not. What we really need to be doing is looking at the entire community, the entire infrastructure. We have a lot of needs. There's a lot of shortcomings. I'll tell you the biggest problem we have, we don't have any as-bills. You have to realize most of this infrastructure was put in place in the late 60s by the resort. Well, by the resort owners that are 6 owners ago. And so, and then in, what year was it? In 88, I think it was 88, the resort transferred everything to the village. And in that, there are a lot of documents on what infrastructure was given in that transfer agreement. But most of them are simply deeds. So we know where we have, right of ways and where we have, easements and where we own land that the resort gave to the village. What we don't know, to the level we should, is what's underneath those easements, right? Because basically everything the resort gave us, except for the processing plant, was below ground. So it's that we don't know where they are.
Well. Yeah, so somewhat. The biggest issue with the PRVs is the age of them,
Yeah, so what,
but also some of the components within those
I
PRVs.
was just trying to make a point that there are issues like there are pipes underground that we don't know exactly what's there. We think we know, somebody has some experience. There was a break there once and, oh yeah, that's this kind of pipe. And, I'm not giving you the whole story. I'm just trying to make a point that a municipality, a properly functioning municipality should know all this stuff. We should have as-bills. You guys should have all that documentation in front of you. So you could start thinking 5 years down the road and what areas of the community do we perceive are gonna grow the fastest? So where should that infrastructure money be directed and where should our attention be? And Kurt has turned things around, but I first came to work for the village in 2015. And I can tell you, up until Kurt and his team were established about a year and a half ago, our infrastructure was totally reactionary. We were waiting on things to happen. We say, oh, well, we got the new sewer processing plant done for $10 million, which is a great thing. But you know why we got that done? Because the EPA had been on our back for 7 years? And they were getting ready to shut the old plant down. And the village just kept kicking that can down the road and eventually got the state and the feds to step in to give us the money so the EPA would get off our back. So when I say reactionary, even though some of the good things we saw, they were based on, we were getting ready to have our sewer plant shut down. And, they waited till the last minute to do it. Now they did that. Well, we have a different attitude. We're trying to get ahead of the game. I think we're quite there yet, but we've made a lot of strides. And I'll just give you an example, one that we accomplished this year. It's not quite done yet. Kurt will talk to you more about it in a minute. But we saw our booster pumps as a big shortcoming in our water system. The issue was we had these big water tanks that we could fill with water, but the booster pumps are so old and the volume that they could pump was minimal. And so we had big tanks, but once water was run out of them, if we had a leak or something, or, a fire that would cause them to be drained fast, it could take hours, in some cases, maybe even days to refill them. And it was because of the booster tanks. It wasn't because of the wells. Although we might have some challenges with wells, but it was because our booster tanks are just old and slow. So we spent a lot of money over the last year addressing our booster tanks. It hadn't been completely done yet. But Kurt likes to use the analogy as we go through and we replace all of our water lines, and we've done a really good job of catching up on the status of our fire hydrants. They hadn't been addressed in 5 years. And we brought in we now know, not only do we have them all mapped for the first time in the history of the village where they are, we also have them all identified on what level of pressure that these fire hydrants can put out. And Kurt, when we went through and did all that, Kurt likes to use the example, well, we fixed all the light bulbs, but there's no electricity to them. So, yeah, we got the fire hydrants figured out to some extent. But the real issue is the volume of water to service those fire hydrants is really insufficient in the case of a major disaster. You know, if you have one little fire, it's probably gonna be fine. But if we have, you know, a Calf Canyon and we're trying to fight that in the village and save structures, our tanks are gonna be drained before we know it, quickly, and our pumps we're not fast enough to pump them. So we're working on the pumps. Quite frankly, we need work on tanks. Right now, our storage capacity for tanks is really based on daily usage. It's not, with maybe the exception of the 1,000,000-gallon tank. The other tanks they weren't designed based on natural disasters like fire. So we have all this infrastructure and stuff. It's a little bit of a, I don't know, what's the analogy or the term, but like, you know, we have all this stuff so people feel comfortable, but they don't really understand if Calf Canyon would have pushed north like it did the last day that it pushed north, if it would have done that one more day, the village of Angel Fire would have been burnt down. You know, I don't know about in totality, but I was out there on the front line with the fire marshals and stuff. It moved 5 miles north in one day. It was 5 miles from Colfax County line. And, you know, we had helicopters, we had everybody out here. But if you went down to Guadalupita, they saved most of the structures. It's because they had all their firemen focused on the structures. They were literally like standing in front of the structures, trying to keep the fire off the structures. Well, they didn't have enough firemen to do that in Angel Fire. And I don't know if y'all know, but the feds came through and tagged every house in Angel Fire. And the color of the tag meant whether they were going to try to save the house or not. And over half the houses, they weren't even going to try. So these are big challenges for this village. And these are the types of challenges that this committee needs to be focused on. Now, that's not to say that like things like, you know, good roads aren't important. They're very important to our community and to our economy. So one of the things we want to do, we don't have in place now. Right now, when we work on roads, it's all based on just the guys that are out in the field and what they deal with on a day-to-day basis. And we say, what do you think? You know, that basically Kirk collects that information and he feeds it to the council, and we decide, okay, let's go focus on this road. But we don't have anything that is like a measurement of road conditions in this, in the village. We really need to develop that. And so that's something where we need to be able to go out and first assess all the roads. We have 126 miles of publicly accessible road. We have another 10 miles or so of roads that our staff uses, like to access water tanks and things like that, that are all under and to some level managed by the streets department. And so one of the goals that I'd like to see this committee do is develop a system to identify the roads that are the quality of the roads and also the volume. Now, I will tell you, we looked at doing a big traffic study on every road. When you do a traffic study for 126 miles of road, you know, that's 200 grand or more. And I don't know that we really need that. I would rather not spend that money on that. If we have to, I guess we have to. We'll take that to council and make that recommendation. But I think we can do something similar. We did this before. I was what in Kurt's position for the Economic Development Committee when we did the very first GO bonds in 2016. And so what we did is we kind of did something similar. It was pretty rough, but we just simply took a map and counted houses. And we determined density of use based on the number of houses, which isn't exact because some houses people live in year round, some houses people never come to. So, but I think we might look at some sort of system like that so we don't, because I can tell you right now, we're doing a traffic study starting next week on 434. And it's 3 points of speed and volume that they're measuring on 434 from the blinking light to our boundary in the south. 1 week study for just that section, 3 points in that, 7 mile or 8 mile section is $26,000 just for that little piece. So imagine that trying to do something similar and measure volume across 126 miles of road. I don't know the number. I never asked for a quote on that, but if you extrapolate that 7 miles, 1 week study into 100, it's got to be over 200 grand. Now, maybe there's some other way to do it that, and if there is, and you guys know that stuff, because I know you guys are civil engineers and whatnot. Well, we'd be open to that. It's just studies that we know from the engineering firms that we're working with. This is what's available. So we do want to develop a system where roads are rated. I want to start off, I think, the right way. And again, this is going to be your decision. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm making a recommendation. I think we start off with this committee evaluating at least some of the roads, if not all of them. And the reason I think it's important is because that's going to give you real firsthand experience about the road system and Angel Fire. If you're going to be making recommendations to council, I think you need to have that experience. That's my opinion. And if you guys agree, Kurt has put together a program, a series of field trips throughout the village, and where he's going to show you, here are the different road conditions that we face, and this is what we have to do to deal with them. And, he's going to try and bring you guys up to speed on what his staff deals with every day. And so that you can make decisions and evaluations on a basis of knowledge as opposed to, anyhow. Now, what the system is going to look like, what I'd really love if I had my wishes, is a system where once we get the initial system set up, we let the public come in and interact with it, like the public report road conditions. And those road conditions be brought into a system that notifies our street department, and we can evaluate them and we can decide what type of action should be taken and then record the action that was taken in response to that. It's a little similar to what we do right now with our water system. You have a leak, you call in down here, they open a service order, we track those service orders, they get completed. There is a response, here's what we had to do to complete that service order. Well, we don't have anything like that for roads. And I'd like to develop that. Again, I'm not sure how to do it. It'd be nice to figure out if we knew and designed a system that would show all of our pipes in ground and exactly what size they are, the age of them. We have evidence of from our service orders, the areas that we focus on for service calls, right? Like the Monteverde Lake 1 and 2 subdivisions seem to be, they're the oldest, one of the oldest. They're smaller lines. Their fire hydrants are not within standard. Your fire hydrants are supposed to be 400 feet apart. They're 1,000 feet apart in that subdivision. And we do a lot of calls in those subdivisions. And because of that, we prioritize that from the village, and we've gone to the Water Trust Board and asked them for a loan to replace all those lines. Now, that's gonna be probably a 5-year project, maybe more, to do that. But that is a high priority for us. But we know, just because we've had so many repairs in that area, that most of those lines are 2-inch lines. The minimum standard is 6-inch. So those are 2-inch lines because, first of all, there was no regulatory people back in '69 when they were put in. And, I'm sure the resort put in what was inexpensive. And they're old. So the things I would like to challenge this committee to do, again, focus on 3 to 5 years. But first, we need to figure out systems of evaluation. How do we evaluate our roads? I want it to be transparent. I want the public to be able to see how their roads and be able to interact. How do we evaluate our water and sewer lines when most of the data we have about them is just experiential? It's like, we know that's a 2-inch line because we just fixed a leak there. We dug it up and it was a 2-inch line. But we don't have as-built, so we don't know what is in the ground in some places. And maybe I'm exaggerating by saying we don't know where some of the PRVs are, but I do know that we found one a couple of months ago.
Well, to elaborate on that, the biggest challenge is a lot of plan sets were lost in a fire at the Public Works building. What was left over were construction drawings, not really completed as-built, if you will. Some of them are fairly accurate, but anywhere there was any field fitting or changes aren't reflected in the records that are not record drawings. Believe it or not, we actually had this challenge with the PID drawings, or what the Village of Angel Fire had in possession were the construction drawings. I just actually last week, the people with the PID were able to find a box somewhere in the storage that had the CDs for the actual record drawings. Okay, so this has been a challenge. A lot of
Hold on, Kurt, 1 second. So I've said what I want to say. I want you guys to know I'm here. I will tell you, I typically don't attend committee meetings. And the reason is, this is supposed to be the voice of the people. And if I come to this meeting, I'm going to tell you what I want you to do, like you're one of my employees. And I can't help myself. That's just what I do. So because of that, I tend to avoid committee meetings. But if you ever ask me, I'll be here. If you need my input, Kurt knows how to get hold of me. But that's what I would like to see this committee do, is we need to start planning for the future. And Santos is online right now. And at some point, I'm going to turn the floor over to Kurt. But Santos is right now getting ready to present to the council the portions of the comprehensive plan that we're developing for the village that are related to public works. And so those are things that this committee should be aware of. You should have your chance for input on those. And this is the preliminary presentation to the council that's going to happen on Monday at 4 o'clock, right?
5:30.
No, 5:30 is
Oh, you're right. For the work session, it's
work
4
session,
o'clock. You're
4 o'clock.
correct. Mhm.
So it's the preliminary presentation, and basically the way we did it is Santos was the author. He went to the employees, got their input. He's then presenting it to council. Unfortunately, this committee wasn't formulated when we were doing this work, so you have a little bit of catch up to do. But Santos will get you all copies of what we're going to present, or Santos or Ileana one. And we need your input on that. And again, this is just phase one, so we're not in that big of a hurry, but we are trying to get this wrapped up before the end of April. To have the comprehensive plan done before the end of April. And with that said, I'm going to turn the floor over to Kurt, your staff liaison. And, you know, Kurt's a wealth of knowledge. And I think if y'all, you know, work together on things and develop goals, I think this committee can be very impactful in the future of the village. Thank you.
Hello, nice to meet some of y'all for the first time, some I've known for many years. I'm very glad to see more people here. You know, it's been for 2 years, we've really struggled to get people to become involved. So thank you for your interest in being on this committee. Tag on to a few things that Brett had mentioned, you know, first and foremost, I really hope y'all are open to the idea of getting out and getting our boots on the ground, you know, you know, beyond looking at certain scenarios and challenges that we have on particular roads. I see it as a good opportunity also in regards to the improvements we've done on the water system, to go show you what we've done and give you a better understanding of how the system works. By some, Angel Fire's water system is viewed as one of the more complicated water systems in the state, given the elevations we deal with and of course the challenge of the alpine environment. So I really hope y'all are open to that, getting out in the field and getting eyes on stuff, and look forward to the opportunity to show some of the improvements on the water system, because it's just not somebody sees every day. I think, you know, the results are there. You know, we still have issues. I think they're significantly less than what they were before. And I will say, you know, Brett had mentioned we're getting close to completing the pump upgrades. The update I got this morning from the water department. What we were waiting on was a few components to come in relation to be able to backfeed from one tank above down to the one below. Okay, so Evan told me this morning we're 99.9% complete with the project, because all we're waiting on is 2 pressure gauges right now. So the booster station upgrades, in a sense, are complete. Quick summary of what the booster station upgrades did for us. I'll use an example as what was our most vulnerable area was the east side of the village, where, you know, to understand the water supply for that area comes from the well that's across from Olympic Park and the well that is next to the golf course. It pumps up to the 1 million gallon tank. Then from there it is pumped up to tank 6. From there it's up to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 and all the way up to tank 11, which is the tank that feeds the Happy Way top of Camino Real area. Okay, so the vulnerability there was if there was a leak within any one of those stages above the 1 million gallon tank, that the time of recovery was very, very slow, because the initial design was actually only half of the capacity of the original design was being used. Best way to describe it is every booster station was designed to have 2 pumps in it. Every booster station was built and plumbed for 2, but only 1 was in there. The size of those pumps were sized to basically sustain the water supply for home use. So when there was something that interrupted that, like a leak that drained, the recovery rate was really slow boosting it up the hill. I always think back to Labor Day weekend of 2024. Through the whole holiday weekend, we were able to maintain inches of water in those tanks. And then it took 2 weeks to recover and get them all fully supplied. So along with this, we had, I believe it was 9 different sizes of pumps. Okay. Fed with direct power, you turn them on, they start pumping full capacity. Part of our booster station upgrades was the installation of the VFDs, which allows us to install a larger pump and throttle it, basically be able to turn it up when we need more and then run it just at a maintenance level. What this has done for us, and we actually had a situation where one of the tanks way up high, tank 9, a tank that has always been a challenge. It's really small. It can drain quick, but the recovery rate was so slow on it that if we lost water in tank 9, we were 3 days to get it filled back up. We have that down to a few hours now. So we can essentially, if we get in a situation that at times could take as much as 2 weeks to restabilize, we have had situations where we can restabilize that whole part of the system within a day. And what it allowed us to do also with the VFDs, variable frequency drives, is install bigger pumps that have that capacity when needed, but also standardize the pumps. Now we're down to 3 different sizes of pumps. Okay. And every booster station has 2 fully functional pumps that can be ran alternating to extend life, or both ran at the same time to resupply. Okay. I could go on for an hour and a half about what we've done with the booster pumps, but I'd really like to get the opportunity to show y'all and have an understanding, not only how the system works, but it definitely brings to light how vulnerable the system is. We're currently working to apply for grants to have backup generators at every single facility, because we see that it's a huge vulnerability on our system. Is when a town goes to go status in a fire situation, one of the first things they do is cut the power. Our water system is fully reliant on electricity. We think there's a very good opportunity. That upgrade is a $2.4 million upgrade to get generators at each of our facilities. Okay. Does anybody have any questions in regards to water? Any of our system?
One of the things a couple of years ago, one of the tanks I know just blew out completely and had to be replaced. But one of the things that they were looking at doing was putting monitoring devices and stuff on them to help identify problems instead of finding out later on it. Where is that gone, or is that something that you need to look at as well as it kind of spread through?
Thank you for bringing that up, because it's actually one of the highlights of what we've accomplished in the last 2 years. And bear with me as I'm somewhat of a storyteller. I want to give you a picture of what I observed when I first started this job. One, I realized I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about how it actually functions. Okay, but one of the very first things that I noticed, it's part of the process, and this was such a big part of the daily work of the water department, and it happens 7 days a week. It's what we call doing the rounds. Okay, and mind you, we have 14 tanks. And what's involved in the rounds at that time was a minimum of 2 people going around and checking every tank, climbing up on the tank with a measuring tape, 12 months out of the year, measuring down, and hey, we're low, we need to turn this booster on. Okay. Usually the rounds were completed between 11 and 12 during the day. That's what the crew did every single day. Okay. Obviously we all know there's systems out there that could modernize this and improve the technology. There's the SCADA system, which is most commonly used. And there were a couple of SCADA components on a few of the water facilities. But they hadn't worked in a while. The people and the supplier they bought them from was out of business, a bit of a long story. So, you know, I didn't want to take the approach of, okay, where could we use SCADA the most and piece it here together? So they want it everywhere. Okay. And beyond just the rounds, being able to monitor tank levels. You know, the daily checks of pressures, you know, the whole scenario of the rounds, that's the simple part of SCADA, being able to monitor. The great thing about SCADA and what we've done is the control aspect of it. Where before everything was done manually. Okay, you go up, check the tank, hey, okay, I need more water in here. I'm gonna go down to that booster, turn the pumps on. We need to turn it off at 4 o'clock, or else it's gonna overflow at 10 o'clock. I walked into in this job, it was on a daily basis. Tanks were either emptying or they'd go up for the rounds and the tank's overflowing water. So we have fully implemented SCADA on the water system right now where we monitor tank levels. We set parameters of when we get alerted if a tank level drops to a certain level. If there's an immediate drop indicating a leak or a pipe burst, we're also able to control all of the pumps remotely from a cell phone. So we have that is one of the things that I am most proud about that we've been able to achieve, because the other thing it does is in the, you know, what used to take till midday to get accomplished in the morning. Hey, everything looks good, guys. Let's go put a water meter. Okay. It all played in when I started the job, the list of water meter installs that were requested at that time was close to 60 meters. Some had been 2 to 3 years. They've been waiting for a water meter. Got that list down to like 3 right now. So yes, to answer your question, we have all of that monitoring system in place now. And it's another one of those things that's not really, I don't know, the public can really understand how beneficial it's been, because there have been so many scenarios that would have been a lot worse had we not got those alerts. And that alert can come at 3 o'clock in the morning. And couple that with a pretty dynamic crew we've been able to assemble of guys that are willing to go out in the field at 3 o'clock in the morning and start addressing. We've gone out and repaired some water mains in the middle of the night and people never even knew that it happened. So very proud of that. That's why I'm bragging on about that. Okay. On roads, as Brett said, you know, some of the assessments are pretty easy. Okay, it's when you drive up and everything's bouncing off the dashboard. That's a pretty simple assessment. Something needs to be done. And what I have seen in regards to roads, one of the biggest challenges beyond assessing the roads is prioritizing. Okay, and you're going to get a lot of different opinions on how to prioritize roads, whether it's rebuilding them or removing the snow. Everybody should know that my number one priority is always safety. It's that, to me, that's a higher priority than who's a full-time resident, who's not, so forth and so on. Every single road we have needs attention, some shape or form. One of the toughest things for me starting this job is seeing all that needed to be done. There was a lot of maintenance that had been deferred for many years. And how do we catch up? Where do you start? Okay. So, you know, we've made some moves and had some pretty good accomplishments. But there's still a lot to do. But I think everybody needs to have the understanding up here that I don't know that we're ever going to have any of these roads that we can redo, build, and then they don't require any maintenance. Maintenance is the biggest component of it. And, you know, the first year on this job, we had a great commitment of dollars from council to go out and improve some roads. And of course, safety was the first priority, but the other thing that decided on which roads we were going to address first was the fact that some of them were to the point of what I would say were primitive. Okay, I mean, really, really bad. So we accomplished quite a bit in the first year, where this last year, we wanted to focus a lot on repairing road structures, working on drainage, and quite simply just getting a steady maintenance program. And you know, the thing is, it's when you go out and base course 15 miles of road, it's a lot of money. But what happened in the last year, when we focused on drainage, rebuilding road structure, and having that constant maintenance program, we realized that there's a good number of roads in Angel Fire that we were able to bring back to pretty good shape, and it didn't involve spending a whole lot of dollars. We have to stay on them on a weekly basis, you know? The point being is that, no matter what we do, the ability to maintain it after is what's going to, because every one of these roads, when they were first built, they were probably pretty nice. We have a lot of challenges in the alpine environment with the swings of weather that we have, the temperature swings, all of those things. Plus the fact that we inherited some roads that by today's standards probably wouldn't even be allowed to be built with the grades that they have. But it is what it is. It's all doable. You know, the other thing that I had to adjust to coming in, and I was prepared to do so, is what are the capabilities of the village, of the equipment? What are the capabilities of their personnel? And all of the hopes and dreams in the world all come down to these are the guys, this is how many guys you got, this is what you can do. I'm very proud of what the streets department has done in the last 2 years. I was painted a very rough picture taking this job. And found a crew of guys that are very prideful in their work, had been limited in their capabilities in the past. And when given the opportunity to do the right thing, they were able and willing to go out and do it. You know, in a nutshell, taking care of our roads, we use 3 motor graders, 126 miles of road. You know, I've been really proud of what the guys have done in the last year. Now, if we continue moving forward with improvements and maintain a good maintenance program, it's the only way we're going to get caught up and get this stuff. But we need to have the understanding that it needs to continue. Whatever we do on the roads, every improvement we do is going to have a lifespan to it. You know, stating the obvious and going back and saying, there's nothing we can do on these roads that's going to last forever. Okay. And, you know, I love having conversation about roads. I'm definitely a boots on the ground guy. I like to be outdoors. Like to hear opinions. And I do want to say that, you know, I love having that discussion about specific things and specific techniques that people will suggest. I'm always open to that discussion. But if it's a suggestion that, say, has been tried before but failed, I want to be able to let you know, yeah, you know, that's been tried and it hasn't worked. I'm totally open to new ideas. I'll use as an example, you know, there are obviously products out there that can be added to base course and road material to stabilize it and increase the longevity of it. And I'm very open to that. And it almost, a trial basis of such a product almost happened. The problem that I've had is most people, when they want to try a product like that on a trial basis, they want you to spend $1 million on a trial basis. If somebody came along with a product that says, okay, let's treat this 200-foot stretch of historically bad stretch of road. So, okay, if you want to come in and do a trial basis and it works, I'll be all over it. Okay, but I'm open to looking into anything that's going to increase the longevity of the material. But I'm going to ask the tough questions. What's going to happen when it fails? How do you repair it? This, that, and the other. Anyway, I just wanted to be made clear that I'm open to all discussion, all opinions, and with our focus wanting to be towards providing the assessment of our roads and a method of categorizing that, it's definitely something that needs to be done. One thing that has to happen in the alpine environment with our weather and everything, you can have a great plan in place if Mother Nature changes that for you. Okay. And I think all of y'all understand that. And, as Brett mentioned, to do a traffic study, to do a true assessment of the roads, that's one component of it. I actually spoke with our on-call engineering service head engineer, Tappan Mahoney. And he said that in the past, they've had this discussion about a full-on assessment of all the roads. And yes, it is a pricey endeavor. Where it gets really pricey is when you ask for assessment and opinion. Okay. And, but the thing is, if we're able to accomplish that, if you're able to accomplish that as a committee, a real good structured assessment, we can put all those dollars into the roads. Okay. And there is, in regards to questions about what's causing a condition on a road, this, that, and the other, there's no dumb questions. There's no, great discussion can be had. Bringing in different perspectives. I hope that there's a good balance on the committee of people that have lived here for many years, people with engineering background, people with boots on the ground construction experience. But we also need the perspective from the citizens themselves. Okay. And again, I'm really grateful that y'all have showed interest to be on this committee. I look forward to working with all of you and helping you show some of the good things that we have done, but also to ensure that I realize there is a whole lot more to do. There's a lot more that we can do better. And as long as I'm in this position, I'm going to be doing everything I can to continue improving things, and hopefully it can maintain the pace of work, improvement, and support beyond the next couple of years. The support that Public Works has received from the community and council over all of these endeavors, it has been tremendous. I think it's the kind of support that some of my predecessors would have loved to have. And I hope that as administrations change, that the goal moving forward can still be the same, and we can keep the same momentum. And what's going to ensure that happens is the strong committee. I hope that y'all are looking at this as let's work on this for a few years. Okay, so any questions in regards to roads at this point?
Maybe I feel with my background at Pagosa Springs, we did infrastructure, we did roads, we did a lot of village roads. And one thing that the village itself and the city of Pagosa would do is monitor dust. And once the dust level got to a certain point in the village or in the city limits, they would ear tag roads that we applied magnesium chloride. We magged those roads, and if you're familiar with magnesium, we would have to cut the road fairly deep. We'd have to go in and water, then a big company would come in and apply the magnesium. Then we would roll it all back and wet, roll it in, and it would turn all your sub base solid. I mean, it would make that sub base so solid that the top could hold, your base would hold on top because of the base was so solid.
Sure.
But that's where that mag was so critical. The only problem with it, it was so expensive. It was really expensive to bring in the companies with the big semis that spread it.
Mhm.
That was very expensive for Pagosa. The other thing that we did in Pagosa that really cut back on washboards and developments was signage on please use four-wheel drive. The other one was they eliminated a lot of stop signs and converted them to yield signs so people weren't stopping and going. Because there's a lot of the roads here in Angel Fire that I know, there's probably still stop signs up there that really don't need to be there. Because I know Barbara put a lot of stop signs to control speed. And there's a lot of situations where if those stop signs can get converted to a yield sign, you're not gonna come to a complete stop.
Sure.
And you can really see it with all the years that I delivered with Alpine Lumber. I did 4 years on these roads. Every day. I could see where those problems were.
Sure.
Climbing a hill, speed comes involved, but I know Brett and I had talked about speed is a big creator of washboards, but you could lower your speed limit, but what percentage of the community is gonna follow that?
Exactly.
You know, and without law enforcement to go up there and actually ticket and make some money back on it, it would be next to impossible for village law enforcement to try to cover community out.
Especially those supply drivers delivering.
And some of us were with the big semi truck that I drove, it was, I probably did as much damage to those roads as anybody. But I don't know, and there's a lot of things coming up, and I look really forward to working with the committee. Water, I remember days with Rick DeFoya up there measuring those tanks. So I know where pretty much every tank is, and I was here for the development of the new sewer. When they had the ponds here, remember they moved them out? And Daryl Benjamin, bless his heart, he was our chief of fire back then, and it was Angel Fire Department, which I started back in 97. And we knew how much water come out of every one of those hydrants, because that was critical to us. The whole hub thing is so much better now because of the new infrastructure that they put under all those HUD roads when they put them in. So I feel that I really can be an asset to this committee just because of the amount of time I've been here and where I've been. I learned a lot with Kiewit on subgrades and asphalt and a lot of those things. So I look forward to working with everybody on our committee to try to make Angel Fire a better place.
Great.
And I ain't leaving.
I look forward to working with all of y'all.
So if we could, Kurt, do you have any more? Because I wanted to give Santos an opportunity and we're coming up on an hour.
No, I really, if you don't have any questions for me at this point, before we leave today, I want to make sure that each and every one of you have my contact information. And, know that my door is always open. Okay.
And if you want to set up things, kind of taking us around, helping us understand some of the stuff too, let us know how and when that can work and what can be done with that.
Okay, I think, once we get the first step where we can, get the chairman and secretary appointed, this, that, and the other, there's no reason why we can't start having discussions right now. But yeah, I think, you know, one of the things we need to do as we have this interest in this committee now is, we can't meet every couple months. Okay. Some of the committees that we have currently in the village that have been hugely successful, Workforce Housing Committee, is a good example, or Firewise Committee, they meet pretty darn regular. Okay. And, we need to do the same, and hopefully we can have a good balance between meeting in here. Hopefully initially, I hope the majority of our meetings are. We'll figure out a way to facilitate that and organize it. And do it at an accommodating time. I've got no problem staying late to do meetings if that works out better for people with their work. And again, my door is always open. I always answer my phone 7 days a week.
So can I ask you two quick questions before you go? Sorry, Brett.
Sure.
First one is, an 811 dig program. When you call 811, if you don't have any as-bills or anything, who does that go to and where? I mean, that's just a general comment. I mean, do they just come out and put a flag on the front of your property?
Well, the thing is, all of your dry utilities can be located with locating equipment. If you have a conductor, you can hook up to. We ourselves have the challenge, you know, the older water lines, they didn't bury any kind of tracer wire or steel tape or anything like that. So a lot of it is trial and error. When we go to locate water lines, we can't locate them to the inch like you can with electronic equipment. Now, all the infrastructure that has more modernly been put in has tracer wire with it.
So just another comment on the 2-inch water lines. A lot of your storage is in the water line, right? So 6-inch water lines will release a lot of pressure on your tanks because
Because their capacity.
of their capacity. So one other thing is you say you have 3 motor graders that you're working the roads with. Are those operators working full-time on the roads, or they were doing other stuff? And so along those lines, has the village ever looked at contracting out road sections to contractors to be responsible for this area? And
We've discussed it on the maintenance side. We have done it on the construction side. In fact, a lot of what we did summer before last, we contracted out the blading and compacting of the material. With last summer, the larger of the projects that we did is Valle Grande North above, back behind Lowe's. Best that road's been in years. We've definitely have discussed in regards to maintenance, getting a maintenance contract with people. I know it's something they do in Taos Pines right now. And we've definitely had the discussion more recently because at this point, 2 out of my 3 motor grader operators are no longer with us. One is Al Gill. We don't know if he'll come back. One was just recruited over to Wildland firefighting team. I'm fortunate that I did get another operator on staff that I've started on the motor grader last summer on basic stuff. We haven't had much snow, but he's done well on snow removal. And he's done pretty well on some smaller projects. But this falls back into the capabilities of our equipment and the staff. Staffing levels can change, can be affected. I have a plan to adjust for this. There's going to be some challenges from it. One thing I do bring to the table, if worst comes to worst, I can get in the seat of a motor grader and I can do things. And that's something that I'm proud of, to be able to say in my capacity, is I can run every piece of equipment and drive every truck that the village owns. But it's something that we have to be aware of, because it does have an effect on the plans of what we can do as far as rebuilding roads and maintaining them. And it absolutely reopens the discussion about contracting work out. But also knowing contractors around here, the capability of doing it, very limited as well. And in the road maintenance scenario, it's really probably ideal to have somebody local do it. There's some that are capable, but to make it, viable for them to buy a $400,000 motor graders can be tough, but is there any?
They could rent it.
Yeah, yeah.
I do have one last comment, Mike, or can you run over there, please? Sure, we did not call and coordinate our apparel today.
Even
They're talking on those. No, thanks a lot, Kurt. At this point, what I'd like to do, if you guys can, stay a little bit longer, and by the way, welcome Scott, to the meeting. But Santos Martinez, who was previously our P&Z director and also a village manager for a bit, and had to move his family to Albuquerque. But we still contract with Santos on a lot of P&Z work, and we've also contracted with him to update our comprehensive plan. And so portions of that plan relate to roads and infrastructure. And so I was just gonna give Santos some time to kind of introduce himself and, ask you guys for whatever he needs in order to complete the sections of the plan that are related to roads and infrastructure. Santos?
Hey everyone, thanks for your time. I'll try to be brief as I can because I know you guys are also busy. So the village's comprehensive plan hasn't been updated since 2008, and we've prepared a draft for public utilities, which include water, wastewater, solid waste, roads, and there's also a transportation section as well. And I've been working with Kurt. I want to, celebrate the work that his office has been doing. What he forgot to mention is that with the upgrades that you just heard about with the SCADA system, and we were able to monitor wells and pump houses a lot better than we have in the past. In 1 year's time, the village saved 300 acre feet of water, as noted by the state engineer's office. And so this infrastructure capacity and upgrades, that's just on the water section. We'd also want to carry that over into our wastewater systems. Just to give comparison, there's roughly 120 miles of water mains in the village, but only 7 miles of sewer mains. And you guys have discussed earlier all the upgrades that were made for the new sewer lagoons and the capacity that it has, but we don't have enough service taps going out into that, and it's built at over capacity. So these are some of the things in addition to stormwater and its impact on roads. And Kurt highlighted how many miles of road that they were able to work well within the last year and a half. But then you get into mud season and everything starts coming out onto the roads because it's not properly draining. So we're also trying to address that as well. I just want to let everyone know that's also leading into, as it should, with these goals and objectives from an infrastructure standpoint, what does that need to do with our village ordinances? And what do we need to update in village code to correct some of the items that need to be revised today that we've come to acknowledge are problems? So for example, we've started a conversation on the proper installment of culverts in the village and what types of culverts in the village to make sure that it's actually codified into our development standards. And Kurt mentioned, and Brett mentioned this too, previous directors would say, well, I don't really need you to give me an encroachment permit because you don't need a culvert. And what's really turned out to be is that we really need an encroachment permit for any type of encroachment off of our village right of way onto private properties. And well, then it was, well, I only need to have your culvert in by the time your building is being set, only to realize, well, you got to clear the lot. That's when the heavy trucks are coming in to clear the lot, remove the trees, level it out. And that's almost as or more damage than it is once the contractor is coming in to build the house. And so the conversations we're having today, and we hope that are facilitated with this committee, besides just the comprehensive plan element, there's another component on the village ordinances and code that we want to be able to match and mirror. And so I just sent a message to Ileana earlier during the meeting, because I don't have everyone's emails, but we do have draft sections prepared for what I've mentioned: water, wastewater, storm, solid waste, roads, and transportation. We'll send that out to you. You'll have a digital form. The goals, objectives, and strategies have really come about with these conversations that Kurt's been able to provide on updates of where we have been successful in the last 2 years and where do we still need to make improvements. But we'd still like to get your feedback, because it still is in a draft form, to make sure we get all the voices captured so that it is solid, that it is good, and that ultimately leads to some updates in our code as well. And so expect an email, and my contact information. You can catch me from Kurt, Brett, or Ileana, and I'll be up at the village on Monday as well, presenting this to council. If you want to join and kind of piggyback into the conversation, and as we go through, hey, maybe this needs to be fleshed out a little more, or maybe we should add more things. There's nothing in a final form, and that's why it's still a working draft, but we really need to make sure we capture as much as we can to get it finalized out in a really good form. So I really appreciate your time, and let me know how Brett just sent me his comments for revisions this morning, and that's kind of how we want it to work. Is if you have some ideas, we want to capture it, and we'll put it in, and we'll list it, updated draft, just to make sure that everybody can feel comfortable in participating at the level that they can. Appreciate your help.
Yes, Mr.
So my job is to be the interface and liaison between this committee and council, and to help the committee in whatever way I can. To tag on to some of what Santos was saying, the past committee did work on a number of changes to Title VII and the Village Code, and Randy was on that committee and could share experiences offline as well. That'll be coming to council before long, and if you want to see copies of that, Ileana could provide that to you in the draft form that'll be coming to council. So additionally, I'd like to pass this around, and if your phone number or email is missing from this list, if you would just update it for us, so that when as we call committee meetings, it'll make it easier for staff to get in touch with each one of you. So I think this is all very exciting. I remember 2 years ago when the new administration came in and we started talking about all the things that needed to be done, and it sounded pretty overwhelming. And, the thought was, how are we ever going to get there? Well, after 2 years, we've gotten there on much of this, and we have a big list as to where we need to continue going, but at least we have a roadmap. So I additionally appreciate all of you being willing to come in and help.
I got a question for Santos, if you don't mind.
Sure.
This is Scott Smiley. In your planning effort that you mentioned, are you doing on the roadways, are you doing anything towards categorization of the roads of residential and collector and arterial, so that we have a hierarchy of roads within the community? Is that part of your work?
So there's already a classification of roads like that. And what may have to happen is, you heard Brett and Kurt talking before, is if you're going to go out and do an inventory assessment, it may need to reclassify that road from what it's currently classified now. So okay. I'm not changing the definitions. I have not been asked to, and no one's brought it up before, that the classifications need to change. But I think if this committee is going to go out and assist with this inventory approach, I think that's probably a conversation of maybe this should be a collector or this should be an arterial. That I think is going to come up. I will say the one thing that we have changed in the last year and a half is the thoroughfare plan that the village adopted. I don't know, Brett, maybe that was 15, 20 years old. It called for a road to come through the Girl Scout Ranch to the Grand and down Sage, and it was going to be for big trucks only. And then it talked for another road to come on the backside mountain to come up to the backside off of 64. And so P&Z and council just said that doesn't make any sense in 2023, 2024. So we did update the thoroughfare plan on that level, but I suspect if there's going to be a more attention to roads as there should be, and something needs to be reclassified, this is the time to do it. And but we have not made any of those recommendations to date because I really feel, like Kurt said, boots on the ground and walking it and taking a look. I think that's where this assessment is gonna rise up, and that's kind of how it should go, rather than, hey, I think it should be this, I think it should be that. We need to get some more data to support that.
So is that something that I can get a hold of, the category road map and the thoroughfare road plan? Is that something we can get a hold of?
I can look for the updated one and I can send it to you through Ileana, because I don't have everyone's emails yet.
That's fine. I'm sure everybody in the committee would appreciate looking at those documents. Thank you very much, Santos.
So the only thing less that I have is we need to pick a date and time for the next meeting. Again, I think just because not everybody is an official member, in that meeting, we should probably at least meet here and at least quickly have a meeting to select officers. But Kurt and I talked, and whether, allowing, we'd like to get you guys out on the streets as soon as possible, and Kurt's gonna start covering some key points on the roads, and we need to start talking about development of a system of evaluation. And keep in mind, eventually, I would like this system to be online for the public to see. They can go see how their road's rated, and for them to not update the number or the rating, but to be able to say, hey, have you noticed this on my road or whatever, so that we have input from the public. That's a long-term goal, is to get there. We got to start off with something, and something is identifying and evaluating the roads. That's where I'd like to start. And I think working with Kurt, because, Kurt's guys have special considerations when they're out there plowing. And I will give you one example where we had a company, unfortunately, learn this the hard way, and it's probably going to cost them their company. Up here, things are different than they are just about anywhere below 7,000 feet. And some of those differences are subtle. Temperature changes and so on, people don't think about. But we recently hired a company to replace all of our water meters because we were automating that system. How many of you are on a new water meter? If you're on a new water meter, you need to sign up for the notification. I got a notification at 4 a.m. last night. Sure enough, I had a toilet running all night. And I got an email that said, hey, you have constant flow of 5 gallons an hour, which, adds up. And I had to go turn one of my toilets off, and a part on the inside was broken. Literally just happened last night. So we updated the system. Well, the company came in and did a bid. And they had just finished Logan, New Mexico, replacing all their meters. And they came up and bid this based on their experience in Logan. Kurt even said, I remember the meeting, Kurt said, I hope you're not doing this based on Logan. I mean, these weren't your exact words, you may remember, but I hope you're not doing this based on Logan because this is different. And they're like, oh yeah, no, we got it. Well, come to find out, the company, without getting into the details, the company basically got into the job, replaced most of them, but the big, some of the cans that needed to be replaced, they bid at $300 to replace those cans, which is what it cost in Logan for them to do it. You know what, they pulled out. They're basically lost money on the deal to the point they pulled out, and now they have damages to pay, which is probably gonna put them out of business. And this next company that came in to bid, the lowest bids from the next companies that looked at it, $1,600 a can. So that, to me, the reason I'm making that point is because things are different here. So it's great to have, you know, your knowledge. I know you guys all have experience, and that's gonna be key in your success. But you also have to realize that things can be different here. And so that's why I think it's important for Kurt to work with y'all to learn the nuances of the roads and infrastructure at, you know, 8 to 10,000 feet. And the infrastructure we have that's old and so on. So I would like to, you know, whether permissible, I would like to get y'all out, boots on the ground as soon as possible. And maybe the next few meetings might just be the process of visiting, you know, depending on how much time you guys have and how much time Kurt has, visiting different areas and actually work sites that we're working on and see how our guys do the work and all that. So that when you guys do get to the point where you're making recommendations to the council, you have real life experience in what is required to do the work here in Angel Fire. I think that'll be important. So again, if you could, whenever you end a meeting, I think it's best to try and pick your next meeting. I don't know what Chuck has in mind, but I would like to see it sooner rather than later. And I don't know how much time you guys have to dedicate to this, but in the beginning, I could see a need to meet every other week at least. Until we get all of the evaluation process done and we can get started on assignment of work and what we're gonna do. That's all I have. Chuck, I don't know if you want to work with him to try and figure out a meeting, but
Yeah, let's look at some dates here.
that's it, gentlemen. I'm gonna bow out. I have another meeting. I'm 15 minutes late too. Thank you very much. Thanks again for helping out the village, really and truly.
So first off, would Fridays generally work for all of you? How about, Friday the 20th at 10 a.m.?
At 10, this started at 11. You want to start at 10 on the 20th?
No, it started at 10.
It started at 10 today.
Huh. I missed that on the invite. Sorry.
The 20th is fine for me.
Yes, it's fine for me.
Did he say it would or wouldn't?
Yeah, the 20th doesn't work.
Yep.
All right,
I'm dropping grandkids off at the airport, so.
I'm sorry.
The 20th doesn't work for me because I've got to take grandkids to the airport. That's their spring break.
Oh,
So
that's right.
It's my grandson's first baseball game of the year too.
Okay, so let's not do the 20th.
All right, the other possibility would be, to wait till the 27th, Friday the 20th, no?
Can we move it up to like a Thursday?
Okay,
Cause I'm not sure if we are all retired, but we're probably pretty flexible about not having to be on a Friday.
Yeah.
all right. Let
Maybe
me ask,
Thursday, the 19th.
That one's available.
Are you good on the 19th?
no, I've got a crown routine replaced.
Okay.
Well,
The
Tuesday.
18th works
I
good.
think everybody else can be rather flexible.
all right, how's the 19th look?
19th in the
That's
morning.
good.
I've got a dentist appointment to get a crown replaced on the
All
19th.
right,
You're not gonna be a happy guy anyhow.
Yeah.
I'm good anytime after the 18th, so. I'm out of
Does the
town for-
18th work?
The 18th,
Well, I can't, I get back on the 18th, so I'm.
all right, how about the 27th?
Doesn't work for me.
No.
No.
Okay, Monday the 16th.
That would work for me.
That's better. I think we should get
That
it
works.
started.
Yep.
So I can't in California on the 16th and have some plans, so
Well, he's out that week.
that week, yeah, until
Could
Thursday.
you zoom in?
Probably not, because I've got a bunch of tastings at vineyards set up already, so.
Well, could I ask Chuck, I know it's very, very short term, but could we possibly, Tuesday, have a quick meeting to elect the chairman and?
On what day?
This coming Tuesday or the week after or
Tuesday the
something?
10th?
Yeah, I think the sooner we do that, as council's been moved
Okay.
to Monday. Is that enough time do we have?
All right, Tuesday the 10th.
That's
I
a,
fly out on the 10th, that's the day I leave.
I'm sorry.
I fly out on the 10th, that's the day I leave, and then
Hey,
next Wednesday is when I come back, so.
You know, it's been my observation that retired people are a lot busier than I am.
It happened.
Isn't that right?
what about Monday, the 23rd?
Yeah, I'm gone from the 19th through the 31st.
19th through the 30th.
I'm out of town.
Okay. All right,
I mean, that's just one, so you guys can continue to move forward.
if you were,
When is the council meeting when we're gonna be inducted?
Monday.
This next Monday?
next council meeting, is that what you asked?
Yeah.
Council meetings are on the 10th and the 31st this month.
No,
No, we changed.
the 9th and the 31st.
The 9th, the 31st,
Yes. 5:30. You said you were good, right?
and you're not available on the 10th,
I fly out on the 10th,
through the 17th.
get back on the 18th.
All right, so it sounds like we're gonna miss one person no matter what. So you guys just decide on a day.
So if we did Monday the 16th and we elected you as an officer, would you be willing to serve?
I'd prefer not to be an officer, especially since this is my first exposure to things, so.
But then we could do,
Monday, the 16th works for me.
All right, let's do Monday the 16th, because no matter what date we pick, one of you is missing.
Fine.
Do you guys wanna keep 10 a.m.? Wanna keep 10?
Four, so.
good with me.
If I can call in for that, I will, but
I'll
You
send you a
can?
link. He said if he can, he will.
Okay, Monday the 16th at 10 a.m. Thank you, gentlemen. And if you find any ladies out there that want to serve as well.
Real quick, my phone, village cell phone number, which is always the best one to reach me on, is 505-967-1077. 505-967-1077. Now, there are some times when unfamiliar numbers show up as a spam risk. If I don't answer, please leave me a voicemail. Some of y'all's numbers might show up as that, so.
Are you guys ready to go off the record?
That's it.
Meeting adjourned.
Oh, I could have sworn. Mm-mm.